Okay, so I want to break down this track that I've been working on. It's almost finished. It's at the point where I'm doing a lot of little adjustments, you know, kind of pushing and pulling at buttons and at parameters, not really going anywhere. So I think it's done, although I do need to mix it, which I know can take a while depending on my energy levels, depending on how drained my ears are. But yeah, for the time being, the arrangement is at least done. And yeah, I just want to explain the process, break down the elements, and yeah, show you guys what I've got here. Let me just play it. I won't play it from the beginning because it's 6 minutes long. I'm just going to play it from here. That's basically the idea. It may sound simple, but that was kind of the thinking behind the song, because I was wanting to make a song like in the style of minimal techno, where you don't use a crazy amount of elements, but you try make it atmospheric, and you try make every sound as impactful as it can be. But the chords for the song are literally just two chords. So we're going from F minor to C minor. Yeah, F minor to C minor, with a little that note up there. And then second time we go down to this E, which would be the dominant chord, dominant note, as we're in the key of F minor. Yeah, so basically it's, yeah, as I said, it's just those two chords. And what happens throughout the song is that in the beginning here, the same two chords are playing, but I've taken away these notes in the middle to make the intro more of like a sketch of the chords. And then over here we go into the full chords. Again, in the mindset of making minimal music, a simple change like this, removing those notes and then adding them back in at a crucial time, creates a change in energy, which is what we're after. So yeah, so it's two simple chords. Let's have a look at the kick drum here. So lately I've been processing kick drums a lot, and I think it's because I'm not happy with them, or at least with how they're sounding. So no EQ here, a bit of compression. Into a saturator, into Saturn. I'm using this preset called Das Scoop. I have been liking this preset a lot recently. That's off. That's on. Yeah, I like what it does to the top ends of the kick. And then some Pro Q, just reducing some of those low frequencies. Pro C. And this is interesting here. After that, I have an LFO tool. So most of you probably know LFO tool, looking like this. So this is the initial instance, mainly used for side chaining, where you duck the beginning every time the kick hits. But I'm using it to shape the kick to make it shorter, slightly shorter. That's with it off. That's with it on. It also loses a bit of the sub energy. But yeah, I wanted to make it shorter to make room for the bass line and the other elements. Because if you think of a kick drum, let me zoom in here. This is happening every bar of the song. Kick, 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 right? And this kick drum, this is why it's important to select the appropriate kick and to make sure it sounds as good as you can make it. Because this kick drum is happening every 492 milliseconds. So it's happening quite often. You can imagine that it's about 200-ish milliseconds long. You can imagine that if this kick is sounding terrible and it's happening all the time, the whole mix, the whole song isn't going to be as good as it can be. So that's why it's important to, take your time selecting kicks and making sure they sound right, because, they happen all the time. It's always happening. Yeah, so I'm using LFO tool to shorten it. And I like LFO tool for this reason. I made a video explaining sidechaining, and I use LFO tool for sidechaining as well, but it's also very useful just to shape sounds. I use this technique on snare drums as well to make snares more snappy, more, I guess, tighter sounding. It's very versatile, so it's a great plugin to have. So that is my kick. And then I've labeled this bass, but it's more than bass. This is the pulse of the song. So this is the idea. The idea was these two chords. And it's not a very complex serum, I guess, preset. Yeah. Just using saw waves, simple saw waves. One is an octave above the other with 5 voices of detune. This one's down, and I am using the sub oscillator as well. And basically what it's doing is this LFO tool is assigned to the cutoff, and all that it's doing is it's going up and down in quarter notes. Not quarter notes, in eighth notes. This one happens when the kick hits, so that's why I've lowered it a bit. And then on the offbeat, this note is higher, so it goes wah, 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 wah. It opens up on the offbeat and it's closed on the beat, which gives a bit of groove. And then I have a macro here assigned to, funny enough, the noise level and the cutoff frequency of the filter. Yeah, that's it. So you can hear, if I open it up, it sounds nice and bright. close it, it still has that, you know, that pulse to it. So let's have a look at the automation here. So in the beginning, there's not a whole lot of automation. And then every 8 bars, no, more, 16. Every 16 bars, something happens. So here it's opening up. Play the rest of the song. So you can hear it opening up and then closes again. There's a change in energy there. And then every 16 bars or so, it opens up more and more and more. And it's really nice to have a macro set up like this in Serum, because you can assign it to every parameter that your heart desires, and you can automate it, because automation is the key to making electronic music live and breathe and sound like it exists, you know, sound like it's real. That being said, I haven't actually assigned this to too many parameters. You can assign it to the decay, sustain, and all that jazz, but I would normally do that if I'm using a pluck. This isn't really a pluck sound because I'm using an LFO tool. A pluck sound would generally use an envelope filter on the sound, but I digress. So yeah, it opens up over time. Over here, I just clicked in with my mouse. But then over here at this part, I decided to assign that macro to my launch key down here. And yeah, I use one of these macro knobs just to write in the automation with my feeling, as opposed to using my hands, using my mouse. And that gives it a more natural vibe, I guess. So you can see how the automation has a lot of individual nodes, and that's because I drew them in. So you can hear how that sounds. And yeah, this is definitely the better way to go about automating something, because you can see at moments like this, there's just a little increase in the macro, in the parameter. And I think those moments are really what, you know, if we go deeper into the topic of making something sound natural, like it's living and breathing, little moments like this are what it's all about. Just a little something there at the end of that note. And also, just generally, there's a lot more going on in terms of the automation. Like over here, this doesn't really sound natural. So yeah, I probably need to go back and just do one pass of all this section here with my launch key, and just draw express that parameter into the music rather than clicking and drawing it. Yeah, because the results are much better. Cool, so that's basically the bass. Then underneath I have a sub. Not doing a whole lot, it's just, you know, a sub bass underneath everything. I remember I wasn't entirely happy with it either. There are a lot of things I'm unhappy about, but, you know, at some point we got to realize that the song needs to be done, and sitting on it for forever and ever isn't going to do the song justice, and it's not going to do your state of mind justice. So at some point you gotta move on. Yeah, I mean, it's the sub bass made in Serum using the same preset as those chords, because you can see this LFO shape is the same. That's because I wanted it to pulse and move the same way as those chords did. Yeah, so it's basically a sub bass. I do have some distortion and a filter on, just to really clamp down on those highs and accentuate the lower frequencies. So that's the sub bass and the chords together. Again, either you think this music sounds boring, or you think it sounds good, because there's not a whole lot going on. There is, but I mean, in terms of from a macro perspective, the two chords doesn't really change from those two chords at all. So if you compare that to like pop music, where you have, you know, your four chords, your bridge, your chorus, all of that stuff, you have vocals, you have whatever else, it would sound boring compared to that. But if you take the time and you listen, I think music like this really has a lot of power and energy to it. So that's kind of what I was going for. Let's have a look at the drums. Okay, so starting off with our clap, we have this sound. I think it's a Vengeance sample. Can't remember. But yeah, so from the beginning here, when the drums first come in, I like it when claps enter a song. They're one of my favorite sounds, probably my top 2 or 3 sounds when I listen to music. It's the snare sound. What's the clap doing? What's happening on the 2 and 4? That really interests me. So I like it when the moment a snare comes in is really impactful and is done intentionally. So that was my thinking here. Yeah, having the snare come in at the same time that the full chords come in, I thought was the right time, so that's what I went for. Then on this clap, got a bit of EQ, I'm reducing the width, and a bit of fab filter reverb on 2.57%. Then I have more reverb here somewhere. Yeah. This is on the main group. Could argue that it wasn't necessary, but it's there. So that's on that specific channel. On the group, I've got some saturation. Oh, hello. You see this solo? I don't think that's meant to be there. Can't really hear that difference, but yeah. Interesting. Anyway, so I have some Saturn, I've got some Pro Q3, just reducing the highs. Yeah, just reducing the highs because they still do sound quite sharp to me. They were sharp before this EQ. Then I have some more EQ. What am I doing here? I'm boosting around 8K, maybe a bit. That's off. That's on. And I have some compression as well. The reverb, and then a limiter. And I think this limiter was really a sign that I thought the claps were too harsh. So, yeah. But then the clap, as the song progresses, the clap gets more and more layers. Yeah, you can see here that at this point I have these extra clap sounds coming in. So that's all together. Without the layers. So again, you just want to thicken. I just want to thicken the snare sound, and these layers help do that without changing the whole overall sound too much. Not doing much on these layers except a bit of saturation, compression, adding width, and then some multiband dynamics. So yeah, I'm just reducing the highs a bit. And again, that's enormous. Again, I'm using LFO tool to shape the sound of these claps. That's with it off. That's with it on. Yeah, just so that the tail doesn't carry on for too long, because then it gets a bit... it can clutter up the song if the tails of all your sounds are too long, even slightly too long, because then things start landing on top of each other, and yeah, because there's only a finite amount of space that you get to work with when you're making a song. You know, you can't have the kick as loud as you want, the bass as loud as you want. It all has to work together with the other sounds that you have. It's kind of like making a soup or making your favorite dish. You know, you can't add too much oregano or salt or pepper, because then it becomes overpowering. But if you add just the right amount, it adds to the whole dish. So yeah, you got to think in terms of, at what point is this loud enough, reverby enough, whatever. At what point is it serving that purpose? Because if you go further than that, then you're starting to do a disservice to your music. Yeah, so that's basically the snares. Okay, let's have a look at the hi-hats. So this is a Serum preset, this hi-hat. I made it myself a while ago. It's one of the easiest things you can do in Serum if you're wanting to make your own presets. Make a hi-hat preset, because it's really fun and it's always going to be used one way or another. So I have just the Alpha NZ noise oscillator running into a very short amplitude envelope with a bit of EQ, some delay and reverb. And I've assigned this macro to the decay, release, and the reverb amount so that I can open it up and do that. Almost change it from a closed hat to an open hi-hat. Then I have the shaker sound from Vengeance. Most of my sounds come from Vengeance. This is a plugin I really like on hi-hats and percussions. This radiator plugin from Sound Toys. I like the treble. So this is with it off. That's with it. I normally save this plugin just for percussion and hi-hats, so that whatever flavor it's giving me, I only have that flavor on my hi-hats. If I need to boost the highs of some sound effects or the bass or any other sound, I'll generally go for just a standard EQ or maybe FabFilter Satin. I don't know if it really makes a difference, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It's one of these things I've started to do, and I started to believe that I've done the right thing by only using this on the drums. By all means, you can use it on everything, but then I don't know, you might lose it. It might lose its power, its essence, its mojo. Anyway, so yeah, I've got a shaker here. And I'm side chaining it using LFO tool just to have it sit better in the song. Put it off. Put it on. And something like that is definitely a matter of taste. You can easily have it off and it's not going to ruin the song. It doesn't need to be sidechained, but I chose to do so, and I do like that. I do like that as a sound in general. When everything is ducking, even just slightly, every time the kick hits, it just sounds a lot more cohesive as a song. So that's my that's my shaker, my hi-hat. I have these bongos. You can hear them, but they are very soft. Yeah, so these bongos definitely fall into the category of ear candy, as they're not too loud, they're panned, and yeah, they're just giving the ear a little bit, some, you know, they're providing the ear with some interest and helping to decorate the song, to color it in a bit. So I've panned all these bongo sounds in the drum rack, so that I can have each individual sound somewhere different in the spectrum. And then I've just run the whole rack into a bit of reverb, nothing too special. Then I have an open hi-hat. Again, all these sounds are coming in at points where I think they provide the most impact. Like over here, when the bongos come in. Just after that transition, and when the lead comes in, I think the two of them worked quite well together. But here we have a hi-hat. Again, you can guess where I got the hi-hat from. Nice open hi-hat, and I'm using decapitator just to thicken up the sound, to provide more excitement. That's without. That's with. It's definitely a bit louder, but it's also a bit fuller sounding. actually going to reduce the mix amount. It's probably the volume I like and the saturation I like. It might be more volume that I like. Anyway, I just felt it sounded better with that. Bit of EQ, bit of reverb, and then this will come in later. I'm automating the volume. Cool, so after that I have some rides. One, and the other one. Can you hear that? So the rides, I'll get to that sound now. I think the rides are from Leviathan, one of the Black Octopus, Leviathan. I can't remember which one is which. I think Black Octopus is the website, Leviathan is the pack. Anyway, just some rides that I always go to. I always choose one of these 6 down here because they're also brilliant. The second one here is just emphasizing a bit of the groove. And you can hear them change over time. That's because on the entire drum rack that I have, I've got I have this effects rack that I set up. With Redux, autofilter, reverb, and then a mix volume amount. And what's happening is that over the course of this little breakdown section, I'm turning this macro up, and I have this macro assigned to the downsample amount, the filter frequency, and the reverb amount. So you can hear as I play around with this. I have a very nice and easy way of making a transition. And I think, well, I really do like the sound of this Redux. This Redux is the whole reason why I built this. Isn't that a nice sound? Yeah, so I'm automating that, and then right as the drop comes in, I'm bringing it back down. And what's nice is that the percussion doesn't play afterwards. So it goes from clean to sounding distorted and messed up, and then it disappears. But when it comes back in here, it's clean again. There's no automation. So again, like little changes like this really do make a difference. If I didn't have this, it still sounds alright, but I mean, this just, you know, you're adding to the character of the song. You're adding to the sort of identity that you've built up, that the listener has started to figure out and, you know, and get an idea for. And this just helps to solidify that. And it's really fun, so highly recommend that. And then I'm also automating the gain just to come down a bit, because, you know, these sounds are fading out, and then it goes back up again. That should be 0. Goes back up again when the drums come back in. So it's just, all of this is just for a transition, nothing else. And I think it happens again, yeah, at the end of the song for an outro. Okay, what else? What else? I've labeled this Crucial FX. Again, some more ear candy. It's got the same audio effect rack, doing the same thing, also for the transitions. I think this knock was one of the first sounds I added after I wrote those chords. After I decided, okay, the song is going to be these two chords, we're going to make the song around these two chords. This knock sound was one of the first sounds I added. In the beginning, it's, you know, it's helping to define the song, and it does play a lot of the time. Most of the time it's playing. But when it plays with the snare, all it's doing is adding more character to that snare. Saturation, no EQ, no compression, and a bit of reverb, a lot of reverb. This is... yeah, so the delay on the sound, the delay is defining the sound. I mean, it's not serving a whole lot like the chords are, but, you know, in the beginning especially, it's just something for the ears to catch now and then. Then I have crashes, well, a crash, bit of erosion, EQ, the bubbles preset of the grain delay plugin. If you haven't checked out the grain delay, highly, highly recommend it. It's really cool, especially for sound design. If I just mute that reverb and this delay, you can hear what it's actually doing. Hear that? It sounds like insects in your ear. Just a little bit of that into reverb, into that delay. Yeah, so I thought it sounded too dry, so I added in that grain delay just to help it sit in the mix more. And you can always, like on drum sounds like this, on a snare that happens every, what's that, 8 bars, 4 bars, whatever, whenever. On every crash, you can add a bit of reverb, delay, and you can have fun with it. You know, otherwise, you know, it's going to sound a bit dry. And again, it's just down to taste. You know, you could have added more delay, less delay, more reverb, less reverb. It's all down to taste, but I think it's necessary to make it, yeah, to make it fit in the song. Then over here, before the drop, sort of in the build-up breakdown section, I've got this sound, some strings. You just barely hear them. Ducking out the mids, no compression. Automating the volume to introduce the sound. And then reverb just to wash it out and put it in the background. And that happens here at the end, and then it fades out. It's something you hear a lot in, what's the genre? Tech house. I don't know. Lots of other EDM genres will use something like this, like you know, some strings either on the drop or leading up to the drop, or the second half of the verse, you know, just helps to add a bit of interest in those high frequencies. And because you only hear it here, it's like, ooh, okay, maybe something's gonna happen after, you know, in the next part, in the next section. And that's exactly what happens. It goes into a drop. And then I have this clap effects sound. I got really bored of looking for, you know, clean-ish sounding effects, because every sample pack I was looking in, you'd have all these wacky, goofy sounding, you know, sound effects that have been used so often and either sound very artificial or just don't fit what I'm going for. So I decided to make this effects myself. I literally just threw one clap sound into 2 or 3 delays, you know, and just froze it, sampled it, and it's part of my sample library. So whenever I start an idea and I'm thinking, okay, I need a echoey clap sound, I know I can just go find one. So yeah, and I think I sampled it at 124 beats a minute. So I'm at 122 here. So I'd normally have to shift it around a bit, but it's, again, just, it makes my life easier knowing that I can just go find something. I know what it sounds like, and I've tailored it to what I want. So yeah, really handy to have sounds like that in your arsenal. Noise sweep, both of these are the same sample. This one, that's the original, I think. This one I've lengthened on the down sweep. And I've added in an autopan and reverb so that the up and the down sound different. Like that. Okay. Lastly, we have the main lead, or the lead sounds. So it starts off very much in the background, but then eventually it's nice and in your face. Let's have a look at the MIDI notes. So again, we're in the key of F minor, and I have taken the notes. Oh, this is interesting. I think this is called the Hirogoshi scale. I may be wrong, but the F minor scale would be this. You can kind of hear that. but I've selected, I would normally do this, so I would have the notes of the scale over here on the side, and I would fold it so that I can play the notes of the scale in any order. I can play around with it until I find something I like. Yeah, I do like the Hirogoshi scale. There's, I think Production Music Live have a song called Clouds or something. I don't know. They have a video on their YouTube channel where they use the scale to make a song, and it's very, very cool. And that's where I picked it up from. So this main lead has a lot of automation. So starting off, I'm automating the panning. So it's wide in the beginning when it's nice and quiet, and then becomes more central, and then goes out wide again. Looks like I haven't done the automation I should have done here. That's one thing to do. And then I have these macros set up, and I'm automating them over time. This specific preset is from Evo Sounds. Yeah, shout out to Evo Sounds. Really like the presets that he makes, and he's quite funny to watch as well. Anyway, so we have this distortion amount. We have, well, it's labeled dirt here. Then we have distortion, sustain, and then an extra layer. What I like about this preset initially is that it sounds very clean. You know, we're using sine waves here. It's not going to be loud and in your face like a square or a saw wave. Nice and plucky. Wasn't meant to do that. Nice and plucky sounding, and it provided just what I needed when I was looking for a sound. Because we have this already, these chords. You know, there's a lot of content in those chords. I wanted the lead sound to be a contrast to that. Yeah, so it's nice and plucky, and again, it's all about automation. Starting off the automation, it's all down because we're bringing in the sound. Then once it's in and, you know, it's been announced, then we can go crazy with automations. That's the chorus. So yeah, I was just automating, you know, these macros from the presets. I like it a lot, I must say, I do. Distortion is automating the distortion plugin. Sustain is automating the sustain and release. Extra layers automating the second oscillator level. So all of those automated together create a really nice evolving sound. Then on top of that, I'm also automating a filter here. So in the beginning it's nice and closed, but then it opens up to reveal the whole sound. There you can see the volcano automation. And then on top of that sound, I'm using Serum FX, funny enough. Just a bit more, well, I was going to say distortion. I'm downsampling. That's with it off. That's with it on. Might be a bit too harsh with it on, but anyway. Yeah, again, I just want to... I like the sound of downsampling, especially in bass lines. And I think in this instance, it's helping... Yeah, it's helping to give more character to the sound. Without it, it sounds a bit bland. Just going to bring it down a bit. Into LFO tool. Not doing a whole lot of side chaining, but still, there it is. Then into just some reverb, an EQ, and then some delay. We're automating that delay at all? No. We are doing a lot of automation with the sends. I'm sending out to a reverb. Yeah, so it's quite wet in the beginning, then it goes dry, and it opens up again when it cuts out. That's basically it. Also automating the delay amount, so over here the tail rings out. Just like that. And then the last sound would be this one here. So I think at this point I was starting to think it's sounding a bit, you know, all the same. We have 2 chords, kick drum, drums, and then this lead sound. We need something else. There needs to be something else. So I just came up with this nice and simple idea. Just using a simple saw wave pluck, no effects. With white noise, you can see the envelopes here. Automating the filter cutoff and the pitch bend. Am I even doing the pitch bend? No, I think I was, but not anymore. Into Saturn, using the console drive preset. Yeah, I am starting to use a bit more presets in my work, the music I'm making. Normally well, in the past I used to have this burning desire to do everything from scratch and not use any presets, because then it's not my music, right? If I'm using someone else's work. But at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is we're trying to make music and finish music. If it takes you 2 hours to find the right Saturn parameters because you've been fine-tuning them for so long, cool. But I like efficiency at the end of the day. I've got countless songs that I haven't finished, that haven't seen the light of day because I've spent far too much time on them. And using presets when necessary, especially for something like this where you're just adding saturation and distortion. Using presets is fine because you're looking for a certain type of sound. Flicking through presets allows you to, you know, hone in onto that sound quickly. Yeah, so we have that, a bit of EQ, bit of compression, some multi-band compression as well. I remember doing this. I thought these low lower notes were clashing with the bass and yeah, sounding a bit too muddy. Into some side chaining. Pro R. Yeah, automated the reverb there. And then timeless for some delay. Again, I should have done this reverb automation at the end as well. I haven't done that. Then over here I have this reverse sound. This helps to introduce this lead. Artist. Again, that's also fine. It's fine to not have it, but you know, when things come down to taste, this is what I think sounds better, to have that sound be introduced by this. And that's quite easy to make. You just take the first note of your idea, your lead sound, throw a lot of reverb on it, print it, flatten it, freeze it, whatever, and then you just reverse that. It's quite an easy process. There are countless videos out there that talk about that. But over here, this is where it got really complicated, because I was playing this first idea, this arpeggio idea, and then this lead sound together. So how do we do that without it sounding like rubbish? Automation. So I was ducking this sound. Every time that this other one played, I would automate the filter down. I would try, you know, automate the parameters in such a way that it wouldn't be heard on top of this one, otherwise it would clash. Yeah, so I didn't want these two sounds to clash, so I automated the one out of the way when this one played. Because my thinking was, okay, we're leading up to the most energetic part of the song. Can we get both of these to work with one another? Because after the drop, it's just the sound playing. So I thought, okay, the sound is going to fade out, this one's going to fade in. Let's make them both work. And I think it does. But I do think the song needs to be mixed. I think it's almost there, as I said in the start. After spending hours and a few days on this song, or in any piece of music, I think it's good to take a step back and not get tunnel vision. I think we've all had those nights where we work on a song, work on an idea, you know, for an entire night, until we see the sunrise, thinking it sounds great. And then when we listen back with fresh ears, it sounds like rubbish. So yeah, that's why perspective is important. Don't overwork yourself, don't overwork your ears, because otherwise you get very diminishing returns. And yeah, that's basically the whole song. I might have missed one or two sounds, one or two plugins. This is one I did miss. I have these keys, piano, of the same chords. You guessed it. the same chords, but I'm not convinced. Or am I? I don't know. They feel like they should work, but I haven't made up my mind on these piano notes yet. It's just addictive keys. That's my go-to piano. Bit of EQ, bit of reverb, you know the drill. Yeah. So that's the idea. In terms of what I had in mind, I think I've done a good job at executing that idea. Whether that idea is a good or bad one, I can't say just yet. I'm not sure. On the master, I've got a bit of auto filter automation. You can see over here. Everything is being automated. Hey, that wasn't the main. Yeah, so this should be here as well. So that, I have this EQ here because I like just opening it up. Oh. What have I done? I like opening it up and just looking at the frequencies. Especially if you have a reference track, you can just, you know, tab between the two, have a look at the frequencies to see if you're on the right path. Obviously, use your ears to listen to whether or not you're on the right path, but if your ears are tired, your eyes can help out a lot. So yeah, I have that EQ there. I don't really touch it. Then I'm running into ozone. I'm not going to explain this really because I'm not going to use this on the master. This is just so that I can get a decent level when I export and listen in my car or whatever else. That's it. If I do my own mastering, which I want to be better at, if I do my own mastering, I'll do that in a separate session. I'll bounce out the song and then yeah, just do a proper master in a new session. I don't like doing it in the session I'm working in because I guess for a few reasons. One reason I like saving incrementally at important parts. If I'm happy with the idea and I want to arrange it, I'll save, make a new session for the arrangement, arrange it. When I'm happy with it, save a new session for the mastering. So I have like backups that I can go to if I need to. But yeah, that's basically all the elements of this song. If you liked it, if you enjoyed the video, please let me know. It would help me out a lot. And yeah, I hope you learned something.